June 7, 1692. The Caribbean sun beats down on the most notorious city on earth, Port Royal. This is the wickedest city on earth, a golden cage of piracy and profit. You walk through streets paved with stolen Spanish silver, where the air smells of expensive tobacco, raw sugar, and spilled rum. 10,000 souls call this place home. It is a labyrinth of brick and mahogany, a bustling hive for privateers, smugglers, and the most dangerous men of the age. From Calico Jack to Anne Bonny, the shadows here are long and deep, hiding treasures that would buy an empire. In the Grand Governor's house, the legacy of Henry Morgan looms large. Once a brutal pirate, now a knighted administrator, he turned Port Royal into the primary engine of the slave trade and illicit wealth. Here, the line between an officer of the crown and a common thief is as thin as a razor. The city is a sensory overload. Chiaroscuro shadows dance against whitewashed walls as the morning trade begins. You see heavy brass scales weighing gold dust in the markets. The harbor is packed with 500 ships, their masts creating a skeletal forest against the turquoise horizon of Jamaica. This is the Babylon of the New World, a place where morality is traded for gold. But beneath the luxury, the ground itself is unstable. Built on a narrow spit of sand, the city is a miracle of engineering, or a catastrophic gamble. The clock is ticking toward a judgment no one expected. It is 11:40 a.m. The tropical heat is heavy, oppressive. A strange silence falls over the animals. The birds stop singing. In the taverns, the laughter fades into a low, rhythmic hum. You don't know it yet, but you have exactly 3 minutes before the world you stand on simply disappears. 11:43 a.m. A violent, earth-shaking roar erupts from the depths. This is no ordinary tremor. It is a magnitude 7.5 earthquake that shatters the bedrock of Jamaica. In an instant, the foundations of the brick mansions begin to vibrate, turning the very sand beneath them into a deadly slurry. The horror of Port Royal is liquefaction. Because the city was built on loose sand, the shaking causes the ground to act like a fluid. Streets aren't just cracking, they are liquefying. High-rise brick buildings don't collapse, they simply sink vertically, swallowing the people inside into the dark, wet earth. You see a woman reaching out for help, only to be buried up to her neck in seconds as the pavement turns to quicksand. Houses vanish as if they were made of mist. The screams of thousands are muffled by the sound of grinding stone and the wet suction of the earth reclaiming its territory. In the span of minutes, 2/3 of the city, over 20 acres of prime land, slides into the sea. This isn't just a disaster, it's an erasure. Massive brick warehouses filled with gold and spices slide down the underwater slope, disappearing into the dark abyss of the Caribbean Trench. The survivors on the remaining dry land watch in mute terror. The ground is opening and closing like the mouth of a giant beast. Some are caught in the fissures, crushed as the earth snaps shut again. The wealth of years, the silver and the fine mahogany furniture, is now just debris in the churning mud. But the earthquake was only the first blow. The sea has retreated, leaving the harbor floor exposed, with fish gasping in the sudden sun. On the horizon, a black line is growing. The water is coming back, and it is bringing a vengeance that will finish what the earth began. The retreat of the sea was a lethal deception. Now, a wall of water 7 meters high thunders toward the shore. This is the tsunami, triggered by massive underwater landslides. It isn't just water. It's a chaotic battering ram of mud, timbers, and the corpses of the recently drowned. The wave strikes with the force of 1,000 cannons. It surges over the remaining fortifications, tearing through the brick walls of the forts. Those who sought refuge on the higher ground are swept away in an instant, their screams silenced by the roar of the incoming Atlantic. The harbor becomes a scene of mechanical carnage. 500 ships are ripped from their moorings. Great warships are picked up like toys and hurled onto the city streets. Imagine a 60-gun frigate, its masts snapping like dry twigs, crashing through the upper floors of a tavern where minutes ago men were drinking. The water is thick with debris. Sharp shards of mahogany, heavy chests of silver, and jagged bricks turn the flood into a grinding machine. To be caught in the current is to be torn apart. Survivors cling to floating rooftops, watching as the wickedest city is literally scrubbed from the face of the earth. 2,000 people die in these first minutes, some crushed by falling brick, others swallowed by the earth, and many more dragged out to sea by the receding wave. The once bright Caribbean sky is now choked with the gray dust of destroyed buildings and the salt spray of the vengeful ocean. As the final surge recedes, Port Royal is no longer a city. It is a series of jagged islands surrounded by a vast underwater graveyard. The gold is gone. The pirates are dead or fleeing. The legend of the Babylon of the New World has ended in a silent, watery tomb. The sun sets over a shattered Jamaica. The survivors, huddled on the hills of Kingston, look back at the place where a world-class port once stood. Only the tops of the tallest masts poke out from the water. Port Royal did not recover. The capital was moved, leaving the ruins to the silt and the tide. For nearly 3 centuries, the city remained hidden beneath 3 to 12 meters of water. It became a time capsule of the 17th century. Unlike other ruins, Port Royal wasn't abandoned. It was frozen. In the 1960s, underwater archaeologists from Texas A&M began to peel back the layers of mud and coral. They found a world of ghostly beauty. Brick walls still standing, rooms filled with pewter plates, and barrels of untouched rum. In the dark silt, they discovered a silver pocket watch. It was perfectly preserved, its hands forever frozen at 11:43, the exact moment the judgment of the mountain and the sea fell upon the city. Recent excavations between 2020 and 2025 have revealed even more. New sensors have mapped out streets that were thought to be lost forever. Archaeologists have found more skeletons, trapped in the very moment the sand turned to liquid, their arms still raised in a final, futile attempt to escape the sinking world. Today, Port Royal is a UNESCO site, a haunting reminder of human fragility. The gold of the pirates has long since turned to tarnish, and the grand taverns are now home to reef fish. It is a story not just of a disaster, but of a culture that thought it was untouchable, only to be reclaimed by the elements in a heartbeat. The gold has tarnished, but the legends remain. Subscribe and join us as we uncover the dark secrets buried by time. History is deeper than you think. Don't stay on the surface.